a stage before. So I'm just gonna, because this is a bit weird. It feels weird mainly because when I've done talks, I've always been like on the level we're talking at, so kind of talking down feels a little bit weird. So yeah, I'm also going to bring up my notes because I feel like I will get a little bit stressed, so just give me some grace. And I'm also trying to talk not as fast because I know that I can be a bit of a motor mouth. But yeah, hi, my name is Amy, and I'm going to get into a little bit more of that. Clicker works, yay. But I wanted to say a huge thanks to T. T is just such a creative powerhouse, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Without her, we wouldn't have Creative Mornings, or if we did, maybe it just wouldn't be as bombastic as what T can make it. T's also one of the big dogs at TGAM, and she's just such a supportive person in my life, and I'm just really grateful. So thank you so much. Can we? Yeah. I can see you blushing from here. So yes, hi, my name is Amy. I find it difficult to elevator pitch myself, as maybe some of you slashies in the audience can relate to. I do a lot of different things, so mostly I just say that I'm a multidisciplinary creative, and if people don't know what that means, they don't ask more questions, and if they do, then they can. So that's good. So before we get into the topic, I thought I would give a little bit of a timeline for context for those of you who maybe don't know that much about me. So I actually started off as a makeup artist out of school. I wanted to go to QCA, but I didn't get in, and so I saw a documentary about Cirque du Soleil, and I just thought makeup is kind of like art for the face, so that's cool, we'll do that. And then I didn't have any retail experience, so it kind of killed my idea of being a counter bitch. So then I decided that I would become like a 2-for-1 hairdresser and makeup artist, and I thought maybe I would do weddings or editorial or work on movie sets. And then I realized that I'm shit scared of brides. And I don't like working a million hours in a row, which is what's required of you on a movie set. So I said no to that. So yeah, I started my apprenticeship and I blitzed it in 2 years. I was a bit older when I started. And then after that, I worked on the floor for a year, talking to the ladies who lunch and training apprentices. And then after that, it just got a little bit too much, so I took a step back and I went back to being a barista for a year. And in that time, I realized that while I loved hairdressing, I didn't want to go work for another salon. So I decided to start my own mobile hairdressing business, and I did that for 5 years. During that time, I had met the lovely Brooke, who went to Design College Australia, and she was one of my clients for a while, and she kind of talked me into being a designer because she just said it was really fun, it was really cool, so I thought that I would basically just follow what she did, and I went to DCA, Design College Australia, which sadly does not exist anymore. However, we do have Troy, one of my lecturers who is a remnant of the past of DCA. So yeah, I absolutely loved Design College Australia, and I loved my time there, and I loved being a designer, but I'll get a bit more into that later. After I finished up at DCA, I kind of got a full-time job at a club company called Catazina. This is some of the work I did. I look at it now and it's a little bit cringe, but back then, this was like really fun for me. I spent about 8 months drawing, illustrating, manipulating stuff in Photoshop. It was probably one of the coolest jobs that you could get as a graduate designer. However, I realized that after 8 months of being there just wasn't really any growth, as I was the only designer there and there was nowhere to go. So after 8 months, I tried to quit. And Susan from HR took me down to the coffee shop and she goes, Amy, why would you quit? Why don't you just give it a year? And I said, well, why, Susan? For LinkedIn? Like, what's the point? There's nowhere to go from here. So I did a handful of intermediary kind of design jobs after I quit, and I also did a bunch of courses online through like Udemy, and I also went to General Assembly and I did a short UX course. And during that time, I also started an accidental t-shirt brand that then turned into a bunch of pop-ups that I did with friends of mine, which was really, really cool. And then that led me to having my retail shop at 709 Ann Street for two or 3 years. And it still houses my salon, but the shop is no longer there. So that was Forge Forward, and then this is still lost. And then I started tutoring design-centric subjects beginning of last year, And at this present time, I think I tutor about 7 different subjects over the 2 semesters. And this semester we're just coming into, I'm doing design for social impact, design theories and methodologies, and in the QUT college, which is new to me and also new to any other tutor that I've spoken to, because I didn't realise that QUT had a college which do a lot of diploma and grad certs. I'm running a unit in the Diploma of Entrepreneurship and also another one in Creative Futures, which is really, really cool. So, now that we're up to speed on all of the things that I've done and why I'm here, we can actually talk about the topic, which is trust. And trust is a very weird topic to me, because even though I've known about this talk since March, it took me until about the beginning of July to actually write my presentation and figure out my slides for this. And it's because trust to me is just a very odd topic and would be better articulated by some weird little hand movements and some noises. But I will try my best. So in one of many ways, trust to me is about surrender, which is also crazy to me because I can be a bit of a control freak. So sometimes when I am realizing how I'm feeling in a moment, I'm allowing myself to be more self-aware, and I can kind of ask myself, why am I being controlling when really I could just surrender to that moment. So I'd like you to try something. Whoop, too far. I want to try something. I want to be a little bit weird. This is one of the tools that I've learned that's really helped me, that when I feel stressed or in times of overwhelm, has really helped me to calm down and really listen to sort of the higher functioning part of my brain. So I've got a little diagram here, which will make sense in 2 seconds. But I'm going to get you to close your eyes in a bit, but not before I explain this. So over here, we have this is where your energy is, right? This is where your attention is. It's sitting about here. But what we want to do is we want to close our eyes and we want to soften our focus about that energy, and we want to sort of bring it backwards into our skull and up a little bit. I know that sounds a little odd, but I'll walk you through it. And basically what I want you to imagine when you're doing this is like you're the little guy in the cockpit of the transformer of your body. So close your eyes nice and softly, and I want you to imagine that energy ball that's in front of your eyes. I want you to breathe at whatever rate is calming for you. And I want you to take that energy and I want you to bring it backwards, visualize it going backwards into your skull and push it up a little bit. So it should kind of sit kind of in the middle of your brain, above your ear. We're just going to sit here for a sec. Okay. So you can show of hands or whatever you might want to show me that if you felt something, because whenever I do this, I always kind of feel like there's a little bit more space in between my ears, like the weight of my thoughts have been lifted off my brain, like my mind, as Joe Dispenza calls it, has been taken out of my body. And this has been one of the tools that has really, really helped me out. So why am I talking about this? And the reason is because, as I said, I feel that trust comes from surrendering to the highest potential of yourself. And this is where you find out that I'm a little bit of a crystal bitch. I wouldn't say I'm fully woo, but I do think there is a lot that our logical and analytical minds can't really grasp onto. So when I say surrender, I think a lot of people think I'm talking about giving up. This idea of sort of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, the whole quiet quitting rhetoric, but it's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is quietening those thoughts inside your brain so that you can actually hear what you need to hear. And so when I shut down the ongoing incessant chatter in my brain, I'm actually guided towards the things that are meant for me. And I know when my brain shuts up, I'm actually guided towards the things, that are interesting, and I feel these energetic lifts in my solar plexus, and I feel joy about those sorts of things. And I think, this is what I would term my intuition, and I believe everyone has this guiding power within us, but some of us may need to cultivate it a little bit more. So I've felt these twangs so many times in my life, and I've chosen to follow them, and when I have, they've led me to great things. So when I was talking about Brooke and DCA, that was one of those times, and it's been one of the best choices I've made for my life. And when I said I fell into some weird intermediary design sort of things, and I started doing a UX course. That UX course led me to doing some work for Mad Dance House in the city, which was really, really fun. So I got to use my new skills to run some surveys with their students, and I got to tighten up their brand stuff. And I also got really close with Meg and Jana. Meg runs Mad Dance House, and Jana is the two I see there. And when they said they were going to America for 2 weeks because they wanted to scout for other dancers to come over and showcase, I immediately leapt at it and I said, can I come too? Because, you know, I think I'd said, as your creative advisor, I would really like to come with you on this trip because I think it would be really beneficial for the creative journey of Mad Dance House. And they were like, sure. So we did 2 weeks in LA, and 1 week in LA, 1 week in New York. And when we were in New York, I found the most incredible shop that I was so inspired by that when I came home, I knew I wanted to make a product that would fit into that kind of shop. So when I said I started an accidental t-shirt brand, it was this brand, Future Equals Female, which I ran from 2017 to about 2021. And I did get offered a place in that shop, actually. But due to the way that they ran it, I chose not to take it on. However, the goal was still ticked, so I felt very great about that. So I just feel like absolutely none of these things would have happened if I didn't follow those twangs of my intuition. And sometimes you may be called to do or say something that might feel a little bit unbeknownst to you at the time. But if you follow it, it can lead you to some really interesting places. And I guess that in order to trust that outcome, you have to trust yourself in the beginning. So from a somatic point of view, which is like a body point of view, the things that light you up are going to feel incredibly different to the things that make you really anxious. And when people have asked me, well, what is the difference? I would just say, well, anxiety feels like shit. If it's not good, it feels not good. It feels pretty gross in your stomach. That's my personal one, but maybe you have a different one. And when something feels exciting and joyous and something that you really want to do, it's going to feel like a resonating fuck yes. So I've been learning to read these internal signals, and that has been one of the most powerful things that I have learned about myself to help myself. So when I say trust yourself, I don't mean it in a you got this girlfriend platitudinal way. I kind of mean it in a you already know. You already, like your body already knows. I already know. And so this is why I think trust is about surrender, because I think my body and the higher functioning part of my mind do know what's best for me. But I have to do my part, listen, and move my literal meat sack towards those things. And so, how did I get into all of this? You might be wondering. Well, in 2021, I managed to completely burn myself out. And I managed to lose about 50% of my hair, which as a hairdresser is not a good look. You can see the remnants of this, the last bald patch that is coming through here. So no, it's not an extra ear, it's just my hair trying to latch back on, which is fantastic. You know, and that really wasn't even the worst of it, because at that point in time, in about late 2021, I had also been reconsidering my subscription to this 3D reality, if you catch my drift, and I was in not a very good place. But I would like to say that I'm not there anymore, and that my hair loss issues have pretty much completely fixed themselves, well, with a lot of help. And the journey to getting there has been a little bit weird. And so my wonderful friend Jen, had told me about another wonderful woman, Sand, who runs a program called The Spiral. Sand does a lot of other things, but I went to Sand for The Spiral. Sand is a business coach as well as a human potential expert. And Jen and I are very similar. Jen runs Pixel Palace. Jen and I are very similar. Jen is very analytical. She's very like, well, if I can't see it, I don't understand it, and I don't want to know about it if I can't see any facts for it. And I said, and she told me about it, and I said, well, Jen, this just feels a bit off-brand for you. Like, what is up with this? Have you gone crazy? And she's like, no, Amy. She's like, I know it sounds weird, but Sand is amazing, and if you really need help, I think you should go talk to her, and I think she'll really help you. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I can't really explain The Spiral very well, but essentially what you do is you work with Sand over 8 to 10 weeks, and every week she works through an energetic center in your body, and she removes the attached generational trauma to that. And it's a very weird and vulnerable process, and you feel very odd every step of the way. But Sand is the reason that I understand myself better, that I like myself better, and that I understand myself better as well. During my time with sand, I also learned about this thing called human design, if anyone has ever heard about this. It's a bit weird, but this is a very aesthetic chart. And some of them are quite ugly, so I'm quite happy with this one. This is my personal chart, actually. So obviously we're seeing a lot of numbers and a lot of things that are filled in and not. And to cut down on a lot of detail, basically human design is the culmination of astrology, the Chinese I Ching, which is the Chinese Book of Changes, the Kabbalah, and also the energy centers related to chakras. So usually in the energy chakras we have 7, but in here we have 9, and they all mean different things. Them being filled in and them being left blank means different things, all the numbers mean different things, all the channels mean different things. And it's a really, really complex system, but it's really interesting. And this was one of the stepping stones to, again, learning a little bit more about myself. Now, while I was into human design and I thought it was really cool and I would do charts for my friends because I'm a nerd like that, I realized that there was still something missing from that for me. So I got into this thing called the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, which is like a sister system. So you would have seen like all of these numbers up here that are running down the sides. Each of those relate to things called gates, and those gates are written about in the Gene Keys as well. The Gene Keys also come with a series of workbooks. There's one about love, genius, and prosperity. So I've been working through those over the last handful of years. Connected into all of this, I also got really into Dr. Joe Dispenza. I really love his work. His meditations have been really fantastic and have again helped me to become more self-aware and learn more about the internal workings of myself. Now, another thing I did at the end of last year is I started going to a psychic school on and off to kind of increase sort of those intuitive abilities that I believe all of us have, and I was very curious about that. And while I was there, I learned that I had a spirit guide called Ava, which was pretty cool. I also had a plant spirit guide. I think his name was Gary. Anyway, Ava, I was like, that's kind of interesting. That's a pretty unusual name. And I also had been following this psychic on Instagram who I'd seen a couple of times, and she had been posting about Lang acupuncture. And I'd been looking for a new acupuncturist at the time. And so I looked into that, and it was pretty cool when I realized that the lady who runs Lang acupuncture, her name's Ava. And I was like, I'm going to follow that. That seems kind of too serendipitous. And so I feel like Ava is most of the reason that I have my hair back now, because between her counselling and her nutrition advice, acupuncture, and moxibustion, which is a really interesting thing, I have my hair back now. Now I don't have to stress about that. Now, who is still with me? And who thinks I'm a little bit crazy now? Because I know it sounds wild, and I think that when Tamara asked me to do this talk, maybe she didn't expect me to talk so much about this sort of side of it. Because I know the highlight reel of design can be so fun. But for me, who I am and what I make is so tightly interwoven that I can't really talk about the work without talking about the broader context that it sits in. And that kind of feels just a little bit important for me, too important to leave out. So when I was at DCA, and I saw this on the wall, and I realized that I spelled junior designer wrong. This is like junior. I saw this on the wall, and at the time, obviously, it made no freaking sense to me, because I was like, well, why would you want to spend all that time as a senior designer thinking? Why would you want to do, that sounds boring. You want to do the doing. But then I realized that as a junior designer, you're spending so much time designing because it's a steep learning curve, you're learning those goddamn programs, and you're trying to make everything look aesthetic and trend-based. Whereas when you become more of a senior designer, you're like, actually I want to spend more time researching, actually I want to spend more time thinking, and the thinking and building the story and the narrative is the thing that's going to make the end design awesome anyway. So, does anyone else kind of notice what your body is telling you when maybe people ask you to do something that you don't want to do? Because I know my body will have the most visceral reaction if someone says, do you want to do this? I'm like, nope. Nope, absolutely not. Or if someone says, or if someone like T says, hey, do you want to do a Creative Mornings talk? And I go, absolutely, fuck yes. That sounds great, even though it's still a bit scary being up here. And so, it's really funny because I get that immediate kind of no when someone asks me to design something for them. And there's nothing more annoying than being qualified to do something that you just don't want to do. And it's, while I have design for people, it's just so rare that I do these days, because every time I've done it, I just feel like something not great has happened. Whether that's like, a late payment, or someone just hasn't, respected the process that I'm trying to go through, or some other guy just gets to come along and put their nose in it and make it a Frankenstein kind of mess, and then I don't get to like it anymore and I don't put it in my portfolio. And then I just, and I felt guilty about it for a really long time, because, I thought that was the thing that I was supposed to do. But I've been shown so many times that it's not good, so I just say no. Which has been fantastic, because I've spent just so much time trying to find the things that I don't want to do, so that I can focus my energy on the things that I do want to do and the things that I'm good at. So I think a lot of what we're here to do in life, I believe, is to find the things that light us up and help us help others. And I just can't be a shining ray of goddamn light if I'm not fulfilled and happy. How many people do you think I could positively impact if I'm pissed off? 0. So I spend a lot of time finding out things I don't want to do, so I can find very niche things that I like doing, that I'm good at, that help me be more of me, so I can try and help people be more of them. And I'm really lucky that I found that with a few things, and one of those things is Forge Forward. And I get to have the most fun at Forge. So if you've ever bought something from me, from my shop, from a TGM, from a market, thank you so much, because you're the reason that I get to do the thing that I want to do and the thing that lights me up. So the biggest kick that I get out of doing things at Forge is making people laugh. And one of the funnest, easiest ways I've been able to do that is through the medium of bumper stickers. And I started doing bumper stickers about 6 months before I shut the shop. And the reason was because I'd gotten a bunch of wholesale orders from these American companies, and they were just doing these really funny bumper stickers. And I was like, that's fantastic. That's really cool. I want to do that too. The other thing that I get to spend a lot of time on, and that brings me a world of joy, is Forge World, which is my zine collection that I've been working on, where I do literally work on the world of Forge and what that means. And I do this primarily through the vehicle of fads, or fake ads, that I like to call them. And if anyone remembers the shop that I had at 709, this is what my walls used to look like, because I don't know how to mural. So I would just print my fake business ads and I would paste them up on the wall, and I would watch people come in and look at them kind of weirdly and try to make sense of what it means. And so I'm currently working on issue 8 for, hopefully will be released at the IMA Zine Fair at the end of October, which I'm really excited for. So I would say that I've come to trusting myself through aiming to become more self-aware. And the stories that I shared earlier have been really fundamental to that. And I also designed a tool last year that I have printed, and I have some over on the table over there, subtle plug. And this is like a self-awareness tool. So the whole point of it is that every day for 30 days you fill out the same prompts. And after the 30 days you collate all of those prompts and you collate all of your answers, and you get to see exactly where your attention has been lying for the last month. And then you get to see how in control of things that you are in your life, and you get to make the decisions on whether you want to keep going with something, or if you want to get rid of it, or if you want to assimilate it into something else. And I see this a lot, which is funny, which I like. But I actually do want to change it, because we're always talking about trust the process, but I just think everyone has a unique process. And I think a lot of adulthood is actually about unlearning. And we're taught to decide by committee, we're taught to run our choices and decisions through many other people before maybe even considering ourselves, the very person it's going to affect. So doing the things the way I want and the way I need to do them has set me free in so many ways. All this to say, after 20 minutes, that by cultivating self-awareness, I have managed to create a feedback loop between trusting myself and trusting my process, to then create the work that I'm really happy with and work that I'm really proud of. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And I look forward to hearing